Welcome back everybody, my name is Tucker, and today's video is the start of a new series titled What's Next? Over the next handful of weeks, I'll be going through the possibilities moving forward for all 30 teams across the NBA as it relates to their cap situation, free agency, and the draft, among other things. I'm going to begin by covering the teams that didn't make the playoffs, and then work my way through the playoff teams as they get eliminated. Today's video is going to focus on the team with the worst record in the league, the New York Knicks. Coming off of a 17-65 season, expectations for the Knicks moving forward are strangely high given their record. First-year head coach David Fizdale has been received relatively warmly for the job he did, with a huge focus on the development of the young talent on the roster, and that should have been the primary goal for the season anyway. Outside of whatever the team ends up doing in free agency, the development of the young talent they already have on the roster, as well as who they add through the draft, will be the primary driving force for the improvement that their fans hope to see. As I see it, this season established four main building blocks moving forward: Dennis Smith Jr., Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robinson, and Alonzo Trier. Smith Jr.'s future as a quality NBA point guard is still up in the air, but only 2 seasons into his career with a considerable amount of upside remaining, he certainly shouldn't be given up on as a future piece. Knox had an up-and-down rookie season that was derailed by a serious ankle injury early in the year, but his size and offensive skill are a tantalizing combination, and a full offseason with the training staff to help him bulk up will only allow him to get even better and gain more confidence. Perhaps the most intriguing player of the entire group, however, is Robinson, who put up eye-popping numbers on the defensive end once he was allocated consistent minutes. Just like Knox, Robinson needs to add plenty of strength, but the skills are there to be the team's starting center for the next decade or so if all goes well. I am a bit worried that the huge blocks numbers he put up at times will lead him to chase those rather than stay more solid defensively and ultimately be a negative to his team on that end, aka the Hassan Whiteside effect. But you have to remember how young this guy is, and the hope is that the coaching staff will be able to round him out into an outstanding team defender as well. Lastly, there is Trier, an undrafted rookie that came out of nowhere and could be a hugely important complementary piece if the franchise's free agency dreams finally come true. His shooting and occasional playmaking abilities combined with length and activity defensively are all signs of a long NBA career as a 3-and-D wing. However, there is a history of second-round or undrafted guys falling off after the rookie season. Remember Landry Fields, Knicks fans? But there are certainly a ton of good signs for Trier's future as a Knick, considering he wasn't even drafted. And now we move on to what I would guess is the most exciting part of the offseason for many of you, and especially this offseason in particular, free agency. The Knicks figured to be big players this summer, and with only $36 million committed for next season, they'll certainly have plenty of money to spend to make moves. Right now, they're projected to have right around $73 million in cap space, but they could also create $6.5 million more by buying out the Lance Thomas contract, which is only guaranteed for $1 million next year, which would get them close to $80 million in cap space, and that would be enough for 2 full max contracts with a few million left over, plus the mid-level exception as well if they were able to get that far. In terms of targets in free agency, the primary ones appear to be Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. There have been a variety of reports connecting the Knicks to both players, some more optimistic than others, and the opportunity to play with each other alongside the young guys in New York and in Madison Square Garden is certainly an appealing one. The Knicks do have a history of mismanagement that could scare off potential free agents, but they've started to move in the right direction in terms of the front office and coaching staff if their 2019 draft class is any indication, and it's now almost entirely an ownership issue that is causing a dark cloud to be hovering over the team. Although I don't necessarily see the Knicks as the number one option for either KD or Kyrie, it's incredibly difficult to tell what these players will do ahead of time. And the move to trade away Kristaps Porzingis for cap relief means that the organization as a whole is very confident that they're the frontrunner for some combination of max-level free agents this summer. If the KD and Kyrie thing doesn't work out, I could see players like Jimmy Butler and Kemba Walker becoming a really good backup plan in free agency for the Knicks. Butler's had his fair share of issues with past teams, and if he were to sign somewhere else other than the Sixers in free agency, that would be his 4th different team in rather quick succession, while Walker's willingness to leave Charlotte and a potential supermax deal remain to be seen as well. But it's always nice to have a backup plan of this caliber in case option number 1 doesn't work out. However, it will be a bit tricky to time everything out because if they swing and miss on their primary targets, there's no guarantee that Butler and Walker, or players like them, will have waited around to be the Knicks' second choice. So it is always good to have a third option, and if the Knicks aren't able to land a max-level free agent, they could find themselves going after a different tier of free agents than they originally anticipated going into the offseason. And although you'd think that teams would have learned their lesson on this by now, you never know. The Knicks could become the next victim of getting left out in the cold in free agency and throwing a ton of money at second-tier players. The positive side of this is that there are a lot of good players in this category this offseason, and as long as they're smart with the contracts they decide to offer these players, it could be a smart move to bring them in. Players I have in mind here are Tobias Harris, Nikola Vucevic, and Julius Randle. Harris has had a career year and was a primary scoring option for the Clippers before being moved to Philly mid-season, and will likely be a hot commodity for those teams that don't end up with one of the max-level guys this summer. However, Harris's versatility and upside could cause a team to reach and offer him a max contract as well, and that is a situation that the Knicks should try and avoid at all costs. Vucevic, on the other hand, earned his first All-Star selection this season and could find himself on a new team, depending on how the Magic want to prioritize the development of Mo Bamba. The fit with Vucevic and Robinson would be questionable at best, but again, the team might be so desperate to try and sign any kind of free agent that they won't care so much about fit. And lastly, Randle had a really productive first season in New Orleans and will be looking for the long-term security that he didn't find as a free agent last offseason. His youth and productivity are certainly positives, but again, just like Harris and Vucevic, could result in him being overpaid depending on how the free agency dominoes fall. In the end, the Knicks are certainly in an enviable position in free agency. They have plenty of tools to draw in potential free agents, the money to sign them, and the flexibility to really do whatever they want. I know that their fans are all in on getting Kyrie and KD, and I would be wary of either backup plan specified in this video if I were them, either settling for lower max level free agents entering their 30s with Butler and Walker, or potentially overpaying second tier guys like Harris, Vucevic, and Randle. But having these kinds of options available is never a bad thing. And now we get to the draft, a team building tool that was pretty successful for the Knicks last year in terms of getting building blocks moving forward. This video was made prior to the lottery, so at the moment, the Knicks have a guaranteed top 5 pick with the chances of them getting picks 1 through 5 detailed on screen. The obvious choice if they do end up with the first pick would be Zion Williamson, but beyond that things get pretty interesting. If they get the second pick, it seems as though Ja Morant has solidified himself as the second best player in this class, but his fit with Dennis Smith Jr. is questionable, as they both currently struggle playing off the ball, and that could push the Knicks to go in the direction of a bigger, more wing-oriented player like RJ Barrett, who has plenty of playmaking ability and offensive upside himself, while also being a better fit with their current roster. They could always just throw fit out the window and go with Morant anyway, but it would be very interesting to see what they do if they end up at number 2. Beyond that, if they get a pick in the 3 to 5 range, Barrett could very easily still be a target if he's available, but with the team's plans in free agency, I wouldn't be shocked to see them prioritize a more complementary player to potential star free agents such as Virginia forward DeAndre Hunter. He had a great NCAA tournament, is an outstanding defender with great size, and is an efficient shooter with flashes of something more offensively, albeit on limited volume. The exact direction that the team decides to go will be more clear after the lottery, but just like with most things about the Knicks off-season, there are a ton of possibilities. There is one more variable that I want to talk about that has kind of been forgotten about post-All-Star break as it relates to the Knicks specifically, and that's the possibility of an Anthony Davis trade. If the Knicks do end up with the first overall pick or something close to it, they could package that together with some of their young pieces to create an intriguing trade offer for the Pelicans. Pairing Davis with star free agents would be a viable fourth option to what I talked about in the free agency section and would accelerate their contention timeline compared to if they waited for the young guys to develop. In the end for the Knicks, there's more variance to their potential roster next season than there is for any other team in the league. They could start next year with a lineup that includes Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Zion Williamson, plus their young building blocks. They could trade for Anthony Davis and add him to Kyrie and KD. They could end up with a pick that isn't number 1 and swap out Ja Morant, RJ Barrett, or DeAndre Hunter in those lineups for Zion. They could end up with lower max level players in free agency like Jimmy Butler and Kemba Walker, plus the young guys and whoever they draft. They could overpay for second tier free agents just to try and put a competitive team on the floor. They could strike out on everybody in free agency and stay the course with the young guys. Quite literally anything could happen from a roster building perspective for the New York Knicks over the next couple of months. They have put themselves in a position to make any of those possibilities a reality. With a handful of good young players, 2 max contract slots, and a guaranteed top 5 pick, they're in a great place to build a legit championship contender for the city of New York, if they play their cards right. There is every chance that this becomes yet another summer of big misses in free agency for the Knicks, but they could also realistically start next season as the favorites to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. And that wide range of possibilities is what makes the Knicks and the NBA as a whole so entertaining for fans like me. And there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.